Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Triforce podcast. This week,
Fucking hell.
I'm sick.
You're sick.
I'm getting sick. Yeah.
I'm going to the doctor's today. I've got like my eye is all like swollen up and like weird, and I look like a kind of like I'm half asleep. Like sometimes when you wake up and you look in the mirror, you're like one eye is like more open than the other.
Yeah.
I think it's called ptosis, because there's that actor who has it, isn't there? That black actor who has that drooping eyelid.
Excuse me?
Ptosis.
What, you mean...
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Whitaker. Man, I like Forrest Whitaker.
Gumpaker, yeah.
Has he been in? Is he one of these actors who's not been in any bad movies?
No, he's been in tons of bad movies.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, he's a Scientologist, so...
Oh,
Yeah.
well, no way.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He's a grinder for sure. He's in a
Wow.
lot of movies. Yeah.
Okay.
Some good, some bad.
Oh.
Some more notable than others.
Right.
Yeah.
Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai.
That's a good movie.
That's meant to be good. That one's meant to actually be good.
There's this list of actors who've never been in bad movies. Tilda Swinton is one of them, I think.
She's been in some shit.
Val Kilmer. Really? I can't think of a movie he's been in that's been bad.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, come
Nicolas
on.
Cage. He's the opposite of that.
He's the ultimate grinder, though, isn't he? He's in every movie in some capacity. Jesus Christ, it's insane! How many movies he's been in.
People always say about Nicolas Cage though that it was because he had a tax bill he couldn't pay, and so he had to just take any work that came along.
Right.
And so he ended up just doing a ton of shit. But man, I don't know. Maybe he just enjoys it, going out, doing stuff. Gets a kick out of it.
Yeah, maybe he just needs to. He's one of these people that needs to be busy. He's just got to get out of the house. He's got to get away from himself. And if he doesn't, well, that's when the chronic masturbation starts.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know if we can dress up Nicolas Cage's career as he just loves working.
He's just a worker.
I think it's purely greed and bills to pay.
Bills.
I read a really interesting article about Johnny Depp. Right? Really interesting. So everybody thinks that Johnny Depp is being this ultra successful, wealthy actor, and he did make a shitload of money
from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Remember that period when he was in fucking everything Johnny Depp was in, right?
He was in a lot
and
of
then all of a sudden he started making a lot of shit, and you're like, wow, Johnny Depp's in a lot of stuff, but it all looks terrible. It's because his spending was out of control.
Yeah.
Dude was spending so much fucking money. You got to read this article. I can't remember. I think it was in Vanity Fair. It's unbelievable how much money he spent. And his lawyers and his advisors were like, you need to make $50 million a year from movies alone just to make ends meet because he spent so much money on all this stupid
what
shit.
Did he buy?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. If it was available to be bought, he bought it.
Yeah, everything.
What do people do? Why? How?
They do shit he goes shopping.
He injected his whole face with tomato ketchup, and that cost a couple million as well.
Had to be the best ketchup.
He bathed in horse semen.
Yeah.
And printer
ink. That's what they all the celebs do that though.
That's how you get famous.
Yeah.
I mean,
he'd do stuff like go shopping and buy, instead of just buying a guitar, he'd buy 8 guitars that were all $1 million each.
Yeah.
He'd go and buy a shitload of cars.
He'd just buy the store while he was there.
Yeah.
You know what? I like this place so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy the whole place. How much is it worth? Oh, it's worth about $100,000, I guess. It's just me and my pop run it. I'll give you $10 million. Okay.
That's what he's like. You drive a hard bargain. 10 mil. 10 mil it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
so that's pretty much it.
He's been in some pretty good movies though, Johnny Depp. I rate him. I think he's a good actor and stuff. But I guess if you have out of control spending habits and maybe drug addictions and stuff, I feel like a lot of them spend money on drugs, whether it's documented or not. It's always coke, they're always doing coke and probably about $600-700 a day worth as well in most cases. So
that's cheap, dude. I mean, I think it's probably $2 or $3 grand
a day.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because it's not just for him; it's for all his pals who are his friends because he has cocaine and money.
Coke
right?
friends, yeah.
But
they're only around while the cocaine is flowing.
Do you reckon they make him? Do you reckon they make the whole they inform the personality too, and they make them go off the rails, and they make them spend all the money and do? Is it that?
Yeah,
it is definitely an American thing, isn't it? You see, what was it like? I was watching some American TV show, and I can't. And the kids they made $100 grand, okay, between them, and they and I thought that's not very much money to make between them, but instantly they went completely off the rails in a completely unreasonable way, and one of them bought a car, and I thought, well, that car, for a start, is more than your share of that $100 grand. If you got $100 grand and you were like, okay, I've got 20 grand. let's buy a 40 grand car. I was like, how is that even? But that is a very American.
But it's the shortcut mentality, though, right? It's like
Yeah,
you make
I
a
want
little
it now.
you make a little bit of money, and you convince yourself that you've arrived, but you also need to convince everybody else that you have as well. So you go out with like the 50 grand that you made, and you spend it all on a car. And it looks really nice, and everybody's really impressed. And then they realize, like after a while, that you're driving like in the evening when you say you're going home to like a phone booth and sleeping in there because all you have is a very fancy car and nothing else. So,
I know a good buddy of
don't
mine. When he got his first job, the first thing he did when he got his initial paycheck was go out and buy like one of those big Ford. What is it, the F100s or something? It's like a huge pickup truck. Like they were popular in America. I don't know if I've got the name of it right.
Yeah.
But it's like a huge fucking truck. And like a lot of people that buy brand new cars, they don't have the money to buy it, but they have enough money to get finance to buy one. So they go out and they end up paying 50% more for the car than they should for a car that by the time they finish paying it off is going to be worth about $200, right?
Yeah.
So they're paying all this fucking money, and for like 10 years, his paycheck was basically getting owned by these payments for this fucking truck that was a piece of shit by this point and was barely running, but he's still having to pay these huge payments on it. People do that shit all the time.
Yeah.
Because when they get the money and they just think, woohoo, woo! They run around like waving their arms, I can get that big truck! And they get the truck, and then they're like, yeah, we made it, woo! Like the truck is proof to their friends and to themselves, I have arrived, and I am now a person who is not broke.
Yeah.
But they make themselves
and
broke
I
very
sleep in the
quickly.
back of the truck, and I do my toilet
Right.
in the back of the truck, and I brush my
I do
teeth
my
inside
toilet
in the truck.
truck.
I eat all my meals in the truck, and nobody else wants to come in the truck because I live in the truck and it stinks and, I'm weird.
I hate the truck. I hate
Now-
this truck.
It's become the sole object of loathing for me. It's like a nightmare truck. It's like a hell on earth. It's like
It's
a
like,
hell
do you
on
remember
wheels.
in Boogie Nights when he buys that car with his first paycheck? When Mark Wahlberg is like the porn star in that movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he's like a young kid. He's never had any money. He gets this amazing, I don't know what it is, it's like one of those super muscle cars that they have in the States. He gets the car, and it like fast forwards like 6 years or something in the story when he's just coked out of his mind, his career's on the rails, and the car is like broken down piece
Yeah.
of shit.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like it's just like that. People who've never had money have no idea how to look after it. And I when I was younger, we were broke, like we've spoken on a previous podcast. And when I got my first paycheck, I was so fucking amazed that I had money in my bank account for like the first time in my life.
Yeah.
I have money.
But okay, is
And,
that like an investment though, right? Is it like people think that okay, so I have nothing at the moment, and so I got a bit of money, so I'm going to spend it on this super sexy car. It's like an investment on more pussy, right? So I'm going to get loads more pussy now because of
Pussy
that car.
don't pay the bills, Lulu.
No, but
Yeah,
then,
no,
Pussy
it
but
don't
does.
pay
then,
no bills.
but taking that to a different like thing, like rich people, you know, they have to have not even rich people have to have a lot of things in order to fit in. So if you work in like this high flying industry, you need to have a nice car and a nice place. You need to pay loads of bills. You need to go on these
Right, that's not
holidays.
most
You need to pay
people,
for
though.
golf, and you know, but no, it's not. But even at that top end, living that rock star lifestyle of a super celebrity like Johnny Depp, does he have
Right.
to pay for these things in order to be
Well,
that and carry on living that life?
It's a
Do you know
weird
what-
one because I think like in his case, like yeah, he probably does spend a lot of money on stuff, but there's probably a lot of opportunities for him to not spend money as well. You know what I mean? Like
because a lot
people-
of the stuff he's buying, you'd never see.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna see his collection of fucking jewelry. Like he goes out and buys all this fucking jewelry and stuff. I mean, it's like, all right, word gets around Hollywood. Here's the thing: if word gets around Hollywood that you have shitloads of money you're spending it, people are like, wow, Johnny Depp's hot. But the moment word gets out that you're in trouble financially, your value as a star drops like a fucking stone because it's like no one wants to be near people who are in debt.
Yeah.
Because it's like
No.
contagious. You know, they're like, oh shit, he's broke.
Yeah.
Get him out of my movie. Like, oh fuck, you mean he's only in Pirates of the Caribbean 8 because he wants the money? I had no idea. I thought he loved the project. Like, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So debt is like, you're right. You want to show off ludicrous wealth, but the moment you run into trouble, it's like a fine line, man. The moment you run into trouble, people drop you like a fucking rock. No one wants to be near debt.
I remember like when
They'll work with drug addicts before they'll work with broke people. I tell you that.
When I got my first job, I must have been about 15 years old, I guess, when I got my first job. Like it was a part-time job after school, like a couple of nights a week, weekends, like for a couple hours as well. and it was all right. And with my first paycheck, like a lot of people that I went to school with and that, you know, I worked with and stuff around that age were, I guess at that age, maybe a bit more responsible than me. They learned how to drive. They bought themselves like a car. Not like most of the time it was like a secondhand car. It's like back when I was younger, people used to buy Honda Civics because they were like ultra customizable, and that was like a thing. So people would get like a secondhand Civic, and then they would spend money doing it up if that was their thing or whatever, and that was fine. I remember every time I got paid, like I would spend almost all of my money on drinking and eating. That's all I spent money on. Like it was insane. Like every day I would go like from school, like I would never take a lunch to school. I would buy something in the cafeteria, or I'd go to like, there was like a mall like close to our school. We'd go there for lunch or whatever. I smoked like a pack a day in school, like the whole time I was in school as well. So like all of my money was gone like instantly. But like I didn't make that much because it was a really crappy part-time job. But like I don't know, like I think in my, like when I got a bit older and I had a proper job and I lived on my own, I was like much more responsible with money, sort of thing. But like early on, fuck, I was terrible. Like I know, like I wasn't like Johnny Depp, like a millionaire spending money and stuff. But man, you can see like how easily you could do it. Like if you just, I mean,
geez, if you had millions, like, if you feel like it's just flowing in all the time, like oh shit, I just made another $50 million because I did this movie and that movie, then
in a weird way, it was like that when I was young and working, because I got paid every week. So it was just like, fuck, I'm never going to run out of money. And every week I was fucking broke, like within seconds.
You know what? That's interesting, because in America, a lot of jobs get paid weekly, don't they?
Yeah.
Like that's the way a lot of people get paid in the States, is week by week. And I wonder if that has changed the way people spend money. Is knowing you've always got it coming in.
It took a while to get used to when I moved to the UK, because you got paid once a month. Like payday was once a month, and then you know, depending where you work, depending where you live, depending how you live, a lot of that money was just spoken for straight away. You know, it would enter your account and it'd be like, okay, shit, you know, I have like $10 left because everything else is just totally accounted for, sort of thing.
You always arrange all your direct debits for like 2 or 3 days after you get paid. And then you see it come in and then you see it go out, and you got like, okay, we got to make this much money last 4 weeks. Like when me and Mrs. F first moved up to London, it was really like that. Like our money would come in on about the same day, and we'd see it all go streaming out over the next 2 or 3 days.
I know.
And you're like, right, we got 250 quid to last us 3.5 weeks. How are we going to do this? And we were like selling shit.
Okay, we need this guitar.
Mrs. F.
Why not get 8 guitars?
But on the flip side, though, if you're getting paid once a week, you'd have to keep money aside every week to save up for like your big bills, right? Like if you got paid every week, you'd have to set money aside like to pay. Because in the States, you might get paid once a week, but you probably only pay your mortgage once a month, right? Like, so like you'd probably have to put some money aside every week to say, okay, I need this for the mortgage. It's going to come out on the 14th or whatever. And like
saving. People just save for shit. You know, they find a little bit of money. I mean, that's the way to do it. Johnny Depp doesn't save. That's the problem.
He needs to check out r/personal finance. It's a great
fucking resource. You and your r/personal finance. Oh my god.
It's great. It's lots of good hot tips. And it's
I never like look at
an emergency fund for like, you know,
why are you
just in
trusting
case.
Reddit for this shit, homie?
What?
I feel like
you're going
sometimes
on Reddit to learn how to fucking manage your funds. It's a bunch of Redditors. What do they know?
They don't teach it in school anymore, do they? Fucking
but it's just common sense, though, isn't it? Like for the most part, you know, like sometimes if you have money and you know you can afford it or feel that you can afford it, and you want to buy something, like something is, you know. You buy it. Sometimes you have to save up for stuff, and you do that, and then you buy it, and then other times you just think, I can't afford that. I'm not going to buy it, so I'm not going. It's not
is it a situation?
It's not a fucking science, is it?
No, but is it, for example, that these people say, what is it? Is it drugs? Is it that they get told that they're going to be, you know, they're having this much money coming in at the moment, and they think, oh, you know, I'm going to have so much more future income. And like when you get your mortgage, you get your mortgage based off the fact that you're going to have a job, hopefully, for the next 20 years, you know. So does Johnny Depp think he's going to be in loads more films, and then they dry up, and then he can't afford all the stuff he spent? Or is it like bad accountants? Is it like people saying to him, oh, you know, you can spend all this?
Right. No, they're begging him, please stop spending money. And they've gone to him, and they're like, the thing is, he's got several people in his ear. He's got his financial advisors and people saying, Johnny, for the love of God, stop buying houses and boats, because the upkeep on these fucking things is killing you, and you're losing millions every month just maintaining all the shit you spent millions on in the first place.
Is it like bad investments?
Like, okay.
Is it like wives, divorces and stuff causing like half of your money to go in the toilet, and then you have to think, oh well, I have to pay half of everything I've owned, so I guess that means selling a lot of it.
Yeah, it's like that. And then once you start doing the jobs because you need the work, I think a lot of Hollywood people are like, fuck you, we're going to give it to Nicolas Cage. He doesn't need the work. He's a benevolent actor who does only projects that he knows have high artistic value.
Pro bono.
And then Nicolas Cage, pro bono. Yeah, they get fucking Bono in. That's the problem.
That's right.
I'm pro bono.
He's so
Let's
for
get him
Bono. Yeah, he just wants him in all the time.
It's terrifying.
It is. It's a weird one, isn't it? I think it's all right when you're a kid and you're learning about money and stuff like that, but like. At the same time, you need those experiences too, right? Like, if you never have a job like in your teenage years, and you finish school, you've never worked, you go to like higher education, you're still not working, you do all that, you graduate or whatever, you still haven't worked. It's going to be a real shock when you finally do start making like some money for yourself and stuff like that. Like, I feel like if you have like a string of part-time jobs and you sort of get like a feel for it, sort of thing, it's a lot easier. I don't think
there are many kids these days, teenagers or people who are at university who can do it without having a job. A lot of students that I know have
I guess they probably have
jobs.
To.
I mean, there were some when I was at university that had jobs. So I was on like a half grant. It was the last year that they did grants for students. So I got half a grant and the rest I had to make up with a loan, and of course there were no tuition fees.
Yeah.
And I was broke as shit. Like when I finished university, I'd run my overdraft down to the very bottom. It was like $2,000 overdrawn, and I had nothing, like no money, not a penny to my name. I was on job seekers, and I didn't have a job for like several months after I finished university because I was still living in Bournemouth, and oddly enough, there are no programming jobs in Bournemouth, or there were very few at the time.
I think it's a very similar story, P-Flags. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But that nowadays, I think it's even worse because you're massively in debt when you come out of university now. Cost of living is very high.
Yeah.
Tuition fees are insane. All right, you take a loan for them, but you start life with that huge debt. And here's an article I read the other week. Do you know how much consumer debt there is in Britain?
Oh God,
£200 billion.
These numbers are just unfathomable, though. And how do you even like?
I don't even know. How do they even figure it out? Like
I'll tell you how. They look at the amount of credit card debt in the UK, and they look at. I mean, I don't think they consider mortgages as consumer debt, because that's not stuff that people are borrowing money just to buy shit. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's no way that
so you're
the value
talking about
of mortgages,
people like borrowing like $10,000 and then buying a TV
payday loans,
and something with
all that stuff.
Yeah,
anything on hire purchase, credit card debt, bank loans for stuff like that. I mean, people borrow money to go on fucking holiday. Like, that's how much people want stuff.
I can't imagine. I could never do that. Like, it'd either be I can afford to go or I can't, and I just wouldn't go. I would never borrow money to go on a vacation. Like, you're doing something wrong, I think, if you're doing that. Like, I don't mean to judge, but holy shit, do not borrow money to go on a fucking vacation.
Please don't. Please do not.
Sake.
And this is, what the problem is? Then you get people having fucking weddings.
I don't think this applies to too many people.
No, dude. £200 billion pounds of consumer debt.
It's like
the
almost
average
become
amount
like
of debt someone has.
chronic. Like, people are crippled by debt now. But I think it's by design though. Like I think that's where banks want people as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for sure.
I don't think people are
used to be
doing
bad.
this recklessly. I think they're doing it often because they're forced into it. I know a few people who've got their first jobs and they have to have a credit card and they have to take money out on that credit card in order to actually pay the fucking bills because they're living in London.
That's the other side of it.
They're working.
They're
getting not very high starting salary, and they literally cannot live month to month without paying a credit card, and it's an investment into the future because they're thinking, well, if I work here for a year, I'll get an increase in salary. I'll be able to get more to pay off this, and I'll pay it back, and it's a trap, definitely.
Next thing you know, you're exposing your feet on Twitch, and then you're like you're giving people VIP burping sessions on Skype and stuff.
You're gonna have to sell all those guitars somehow.
ASMR stuff or whatever it's called, the audio thing. You're doing all that, right? Where do you think the worst debt in the country is?
God.
I would say that it's probably in. I don't want to judge again, but I'm going to say it's in the north.
You're wrong.
I would have thought that.
It's mainly around the home counties.
Really?
Yeah. So London is actually very, very good for debt. Like we're not massively in debt. And I think the reason for that is if you can afford to live in London, you're probably not having that bad a time.
Right.
Like genuinely.
The people
Most
who,
people
the people
that live in
who
London,
live in
can afford
London
it.
aren't in consumer debt. So
Right,
they don't have
but
a lot of
the people
credit
that live
card
in-
debt. Is that what you're saying?
In Red Hill, that postcode, so between London and Brighton, very bad. All right, and sort of if you look around London, it's all terrible. People in massive consumer debt.
Wow.
People in London, not so bad. Just outside Liverpool and Manchester, just to the south of there, very, very, very bad consumer debt. So if you go like north, east, south, or west from London, those areas are disastrous for consumer debt, like much worse than the average. The average amount of debt is like £700 a person. That's how much the average person in this country has in personal debt, which is crazy.
I have no debt. I honestly, like a mortgage. That's it. That's the only actual like debt I have or whatever.
Right,
but like
we're
I don't
very
have.
fortunate.
I don't have like a credit card bill. Like we barely use our credit card. Like
I cut mine up. We have one.
Well, we use it like if we need to. You know, and it's usually to pay for stuff like in advance, you know, like if we're planning on going on a vacation, we have to like rent a car or something like that. We'll pay for that on a credit card and then just pay it off like over the course of between paying for it and then going on the vacation.
I think a lot of very smart people are in debt, and I think it's because they've been trapped often. You know, I remember staying with this when I was working my first when I was doing an internship for Pfizer. I stayed with a lady who rented rooms out in her house temporarily. So I stayed with her for like a month while I was looking for another place. And you know, she had we were chatting. She had like loads of credit card debt, and it just sort of got on top of her really. And you know, she was like, it just kind of got a little bit out of it. She didn't think it was too bad originally, and then so she used another credit card to pay it off, and it just got worse. It just got £100 worse the next month, £100 worse the next month, and over a couple of years, you know, she ended up in like 5 or 6 grand of credit card debt, and it was like, but she was a very smart, very with it woman, and she didn't really spend a lot. It had just crept up on her. It wasn't like she'd gone and blown it all, or
I don't know if it's like, you know, like sometimes people are like really smart, okay, like academically they're brilliant and stuff, but they lack common sense. Like in things that like just very simple things seem to like evade them somehow. Okay, but they're like, you know, they're like smart people. Obviously, like they know like a lot of stuff or whatever. But then they'll just be really fucking terrible at driving a car or something stupid like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like because I'm sure I saw like a documentary, and there's this woman, and she was. Like you said, she was really intelligent. You know, she had this like really good job. She was really well schooled and everything. She was like super like advanced in her field and stuff like that. And she just could not fucking handle her finances like at all. It was just stupid. It was like it must like I know how people feel like watching me play video games now. Like I was actually face palming the entire time. It's like, how the fuck are you so stupid? Like, what are you doing? Like you're a smart person. Why are you letting this happen to yourself? And she just could not fucking get a grasp on it. She was just like, I don't know. There was just like something in her brain that prevented her from
it's a little bit like a psychological
concept.
problem, though, of something that you don't want to deal with. You just don't deal with it. You don't escape. It's like escapism. You just put it away and you let it get worse. And you know it's there.
It was infuriating to watch, though, because it was so easy to fix the situation, and she was just incapable of doing it. She was just like so. I don't know what it was. She was just like.
I think this exact same mentality can apply to, you know, lots of other issues. You know, like gaining weight or being depressed or these other problems that, you know, not solving something and then that makes it worse. And it's this vicious cycle, though.
Yeah.
Of, you know, it gets worse. You don't want to deal with it. It gets worse.
You know what? There was a TV show. There was a TV show a few years back about people who've run up massive debts, and then these guys go in. These like financial experts go in and examine how they're spending money and what they're doing and stuff. And these guys would run up these huge debts. This was sort of this idea that people had. You know the way in the Post you're always getting these things about credit cards, and you've got one, and all you have to do is sign this form. And so they just sign all these forms and get all these credit cards, and they feel like they're rich and they've got all this money, and they live these lifestyles they can't sustain. And their plan in a lot of the cases is, when I run out of money, I'll just declare bankruptcy. Boom, no problem. A couple of years, I'll be back, and that's the end of it. But it doesn't work like that. People's idea of what bankruptcy is, personal bankruptcy, if you're personally bankrupt, good luck getting any kind of loan in the future.
Yeah,
because if you say,
again,
I was bankrupt, this was how much, and these were all the companies that lost out, no one's going to touch you with a fucking barge pole because the banks aren't that fucking stupid. They want to lend you money and they want you to be in debt for like 30 years.
But they want it to be controlled and repayable.
Yeah, they want to get it back, right?
Exactly,
that's the point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, but then again, like bankruptcy is a very common. I think Donald Trump become
like 8 times or
like,
something.
I mean,
well 50 Cent was bankrupt as well.
But that was his companies
Yeah.
that he'd set up, so he set up a company, it didn't go well, blah blah blah. Yeah, but it is very different, but from personal bankruptcy. But you could see, wasn't there this thing about students, declaring personal bankruptcy? But I don't think you can do that on your student loan, actually.
Oh, maybe not.
No, I don't think you can. I think they figured that out. They know students are crafty. Crafty students, they're cooking this up. Here's what we do, lads. We'll graduate university. We'll declare bankruptcy. All our loans will be void. It's amazing. And they change it so that until you earn that money, that debt is just sitting there. So you could spend your whole life on a minimum wage job and never actually have to pay back your student loan, as I understand it. Unless you earn a certain amount, eventually they'll just write the debt off and say this guy's a no-hoper. He obviously got a 2-2 like Pyrion Flax at university, and he's never going to amount to shit.
Man, what's a 2-2?
A Desmond 2-2.
It's
a Desmond 2-2.
That's what they call it. A Desmond.
It's an average.
No, it's not.
It's an average grade
It's a disaster.
for
Like
university.
below average.
It's okay.
A first is like an A, right? A 2-1 is like a B to a C. A 2-2 is like a D to an E. Like you haven't failed, but no one gives a shit.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
No,
you
it's
got a degree.
not,
Oh, what
'cause
did
you
you get?
still
A
pass
2-2.
with a
I was
third.
definitely a 2-2 person in school as well.
A third
yes.
is a D. A 2-2 is a C. A 2-1 is a B.
A third. If you turn up to a degree and then they say you need a degree for this job, and you're like, yeah, I've got one. What did you get? A third. They'll be like, get out.
That's exactly. It's like a D. It's like it's not a fail, but it might as well be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a D.
It's bad.
2-2 is a C. It's a fine grade.
It's not.
It's a C. It's a pass.
I was so
it's a
fucking
pass.
lazy. I got the grade I deserved for the amount of work I did, which was as little as possible.
You don't
Like,
degrade.
if I-
Lots of people out there are sat on 2-2s, and they're fine.
And they know the same thing I know, which is I did fuck all at university, and I probably didn't even deserve that. That's all I'm saying out there, 2-2 havers. Let's be honest with ourselves. I'm in the same boat. I got a 2-2, and I know I did fuck all. And I saw the amount of work the guys who got firsts put in, and I was like, fuck those nerds. I'm going down the pub. They got a first. They fucking deserve it. I don't want to diminish what they got by making out that what I did.
And where are those nerds now? Fucking $6,000 credit card debt.
Yeah.
But they got really good jobs and they got a nice wife and a nice house and stuff, but they can't manage their debt.
That's right.
Fucking
I mean,
assholes.
that's it. I learned to manage my finance by figuring out how many pints I could buy
Yeah.
on a per diem basis.
right.
Using my
man.
grant and
I mean,
loan
that's
money,
how
so-
that's how some people like to go through life, though. Some people judge it by like a day of work. So it's like, a day I get paid, like £8 a day. So
That's 8 pints.
How exactly? That's like they measure it in pints.
We had this system at my high school. We had vending machines, like Coke machines. And what you could do is you could go into the office and you could say to the lady in the office, you could say, "Listen, I just tried to buy a Coke from the Coke machine and it ate my dollar. Can I be refunded?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, sure, just fill out this form or whatever." Like they had like a whole form. It was like this huge procedure, okay? So the people that came to fill up the vending machine could like track if it was faulty or whatever. And honestly, there was like every month there must have been like thousands of entries on this because everybody knew it was like the scam to do sort of thing. Wow. So you go in, you get your dollar, and then you could either just go to the drinks machine and get a free drink with it, or you could go play 4 games of Metal Slug, the arcade game. Yeah. So fuck, man, every day like we'd have just like this pool of money that we got from this scam, and we'd play Metal Slug like until we were blue in the face. And that's probably why I was a D average student.
Yeah.
Thanks to Metal Slug.
That was
Maybe.
really fun
Metal
though.
Slug.
It was really fun.
Jeez, but okay. So let's go back. So were you seriously sick, P-Flax, or could we talk about this, or were you like?
What about when I went to hospital, you mean?
Yeah. Have you talked about it?
Let's talk about it. I thought I talked about the first time I had supraventricular tachycardia. Which
I don't remember you ever telling me about the
you telling us about
supraventricular
it.
tachycardia.
Okay.
No.
So what it is sometimes the rhythm of your heart gets disrupted, and there can be different triggers for different people. So I remember when I was much younger, I was a very sickly child. I had like whooping cough, and I had mumps, and I had terrible tonsillitis. I had all kinds of awful things. And eventually they took my tonsils out and it made things a lot better. But when I was sick, the doctor was listening to my heart and said, you've got like a slight arrhythmia to your heartbeat. So you've probably got an extra bit on your heart, like a little extra sort of head poking up. Like, and occasionally it interrupts everything else. Not a problem generally. But as you get older, your heart gets a little weaker and the arrhythmia sort of occasionally kicks in, and it completely disrupts the electrical signals going across your heart. So instead of going ba-boom, ba-boom, it goes like that, like crazy fast.
They call it atrial flutter.
Okay,
I have it
good.
sometimes, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I do get it occasionally. I'll feel like a weird flutter and then it's gone. But occasionally you get the flutter and it, instead of kicking back into normal, it fucks up and it just goes, all right, fuck it, we're just going ham now. And like 200 beats a minute, which is crazy fast. And your blood pressure drops so fast that the veins on your arm will disappear because your blood pressure is so low.
Shit.
You think it would be high because your heart is pumping, but it's barely pumping. So it's like a motor that's idling, rather than going. It's like idling at the wrong speed. So it's all over the place.
It's
so
very
I
scary.
had this,
yeah.
It was. The first time it was very scary. I was out having a coffee on Twickenham Green, waiting for the kids to finish their swimming lesson. And
you
I was
were quite relaxed, I suppose, as well.
Very chill.
And you hadn't
had
been like, you hadn't
coffee.
had too much caffeine. Well, you're having the bit then, but you would.
That was the thing. I downed the cup of coffee because I realised I had to go get them. And it was a hot day, and I got up and I was rushing, and suddenly my heart started racing.
Oh, so you were feeling quite a lot of
just that
stress
one time.
and caffeine. Okay.
That's right. And I went to get the kids because I didn't want to leave them in there. And I thought, if I'm having a heart attack, I want the kids to be with me. That sounds selfish, but I want to see them if I'm on my way out. So I go and get the kids.
I want to die in front of them.
I know.
Okay.
And because I didn't want, if I died right there, no one's going to pick them up from swimming. They're just going to be stuck there. And they'd be there for like hours. So I thought, I'll get the kids.
That's not how
I
it
must
works.
get the kids.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's...
So luckily, and this is insane, there was one of those little ambulances, not the full ambulance, but the car. It's like an estate car that's an ambulance, parked right on the green.
Wow.
And I sort of looked at the guy and I thought, that's handy. Got the kids, came back and knocked on his window, and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack or something. I don't know what's going on. He said, all right, let's have a look at you, because they're always super calm. They don't go, oh, fuck!
No, they can't. Imagine
yeah.
if you were having a heart attack and they started freaking out, you'd probably, even if you weren't having one, you would have one sort of thing.
Yeah. If they just sort of backed away from you with their hand over their mouth and just turned and sprinted down the road away from you.
Oh, my God!
Oh, God!
But then again, like paramedics they're really heavily trained, but they're more trained around those types of things, I think, like like heart attack stuff that like they actually have to have quick response for, rather than something more like, you don't show a paramedic you're like rash and they'll be like, what?
Did you guys ever see that movie
like,
with Nicolas Cage in it where he was a paramedic and he was like really fucking depressed and stuff?
Yeah.
That's all I got on that one.
That was a rare, decent Nicolas Cage movie.
It was,
So he sat you, he was very calm, because that's what you have to be.
So that was the first time, and he gave me an EKG like reading right there on the green. So I'm just sitting on the little fence. There's like a little picket fence that goes around, little metal fence or whatever. And I'm just sitting there in the middle of the street. And he has to undo my shirt, and he's put all the pads over me. He's shaving my chest right there. The kids are like terrified, and he's like, "Yeah, that's real fast. Let's get you to the hospital." So he calls an ambulance. They take me in, and all the rest of it. So this time, what happened was I called 111 because I wanted to know if there was something that I could do to stop it. And there's something called something like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Reddit, the Valsalva or Volsalva maneuver. It sounds like vulva, but it's the Valsalva maneuver.
Right.
And basically, when you're on a plane and you pinch your nose to clear the airways, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that, but instead of sort of, you just sort of tense up like taking a big shit at the same time. And what that does is compresses one of the parts of your heart, and hopefully that'll knock it back in. And honestly, a lot of the time when I'm getting a racing heart, if I just tense my chest up real hard, it's fine and it goes away, and you just sort of live with it. Right. But this time it wouldn't. Nothing would pop it. And then they're trying this other maneuver called the advanced Valsalva technique, where they give you a syringe and you blow into it like you're trying to push the stopper out, and then they tip you backwards. Like in the movie, Inception. When they dunk them in the water?
Yeah, someone needs to kick you off a chair.
Yeah, it's like a kick.
It's the only thing that gets you off anymore is balancing on a chair over a bathtub when your wife has to kick you into it.
Kick me in. Give me the kick. It's like that. But so they tip you backwards onto your back and push your legs, and that'll do it as well sometimes. Didn't work. So they called an ambulance, and I go in, and they get you into the resuscitation room, because just in case, right? And you're lying there, and they have to put even bigger pads on you, because now there's a bigger machine, and they put the finger thing on. And at this point, I've got a cannula going into my right vein on my right arm. That's a drip. And then I've got one into the other one, nearer to my heart on the left arm, which is
this is making me a bit nervous of just thinking about it.
I feel
the
my second time
like...
it was a breeze. The first time I was scared. The second time it was a breeze. I was like, I know what's going to happen here. So the doctor comes in and she says, we're going to have to give you the adenosine. You've had it before. I was like, yeah. She goes, so you're familiar with the effects? I was like, yes. And she said, because I'm interested. Is it really like that? Like when the doctor is curious about the injection they're giving you, you know it's a serious injection, right? So adenosine basically kind of fucks your heart up and knocks it back into its normal rhythm. So if it's racing, they give you adenosine and it sort of just almost paralyzes the heart just for long enough. Then they get this thing called the flush, which is like this other injection that flushes the adenosine out.
Oh, geez.
So they give you adenosine, then they quickly give you the flush. The adenosine gets to your heart first, and the sensation that people they've referred to it as like impending doom.
Fuck.
That's what it's described as. And it literally is. The first time I had it, it was me and the doctor and like another doctor who was just assisting and observing, because they'd never done this before. Like none of these doctors had done an adenosine injection before. And other doctors came to watch. There were like 4 or 5 other doctors watching because they wanted to see what it was like to give someone an adenosine injection. So I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And they're all watching and they're like curious to see. And you're watching the EKG like ba 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 ba. And as soon as the adenosine hits your heart, it's like boo, and then it's like boom 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 back to normal. But when you get hit with it, you feel like there's all terrible, awful nightmares closing in on you, and you literally feel impending doom for a brief moment.
Oh my God.
And then suddenly you're fine. It's such a weird feeling.
Fuck.
Holy
and so
shit.
that was my Sunday night. And then I said, can I go? Because they let me go. Like the previous doctor was like this gung-ho Rambo doctor. He was like, okay, you can go. I was like, great. And I just got on a bus and went home. This doctor, she was like, we're giving you blood tests and we're keeping an eye on you for like at least 3 hours. I was like, come on, it's like going to be 4 a.m. by the time I get out of here. She was like, nope. So I had to sit there for like 3 hours just waiting with the sounds of the hospital all around me. Whereas the previous doctor was like high-fiving me and woohoo and running out, and I could just leave. So this time I had to stay, which was kind of annoying. And then I had to listen to the other people in the hospital, which is just depressing.
Oh, God.
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
but that was that.
I went to visit somebody in the hospital one time. It was my my wife's great uncle. He was in the hospital. He was in a pretty bad way, and he was in this room with a bunch of other people. It was like a ward. There was like 6 beds in the ward, I guess. So we went in to see him and to visit him. And holy shit, man! There was like some other people in there. Like there was this one guy who was just like the most jaundiced person I've ever seen in my life. He was so fucking yellow, and he was just like laying in his bed, like moaning and groaning and stuff. And oh God, it was horrible. Fuck me.
Hospitals are genuinely terrifying places.
Jesus
the
Christ.
thing is, though, right? Like it's a funny old thing where
Well, the maternity ward is nice. Man, people are so fucking
like
happy on the
maternity
maternity
people,
ward.
I have this thing where I don't want to bother someone with a problem. It's like one day I wake up and I'm a bit yellow, and it's like, well, you know, my face is a bit yellow, but you know, I'm sure it'll go away. Next day, a bit more yellow. So I'm like, I ring up the doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, you can come in if you want, but you know, it's like I rang up the doctor for an appointment yesterday, and they were like, yeah, the closest we can get you in is October the 9th. And I was like, October the 9th? Are you kidding? That's like 2 weeks from now.
Oh, that's crazy, eh?
And so
You get that over
if you
here,
want
too.
a sooner one, you know, you'll have to, you know, ring up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, and you know, and they'll schedule in for the daily stuff, and that's okay. But like, it was just like, holy crap, you know, I felt like. You know, so I can see why people don't want to bother someone, and then they get very bad, you know. And then obviously this guy probably came in and he was in a you know, got even yellower. then you know, he was like,
man.
oh, okay, I better go to the doctor now. And they're like, right, you're going to hospital. And then there he is, the day later, even more miserable.
See,
but
I'm
yeah,
a bit-
so
Do you know what?
Go on.
I was talking to the nurse there, and I said to her, it's really quiet. Like it was a Sunday evening. But she said, yeah, it is unusually quiet. Like Sundays are normally not too quiet, but occasionally they can be busy. But I said, at least it's not Friday or Saturday, right? She goes, those are the quiet times. I was like, what? She said, a lot of people avoid coming to A&E, specifically on a Friday and Saturday, because they think it's going to be busy. So they hold it off till Monday. She said Monday is always the worst fucking day.
Monday is always worse
All these people.
because most GP surgeries and doctor surgeries are not really open at the weekends. You can't really see a doctor on Sunday.
Right.
And
I'm talking about A&E.
No, but as a
This is
result, a lot
A&E.
of people who would go to the doctor on a Sunday, if it was open, and they think it's bad, they tend to get like a bad infection or something. Then they end up in A&E on Monday because because of the way that we operate. I think that the majority of the amount of deaths that are caused because GPs don't open on Sundays and because it's so hard to see a doctor on Sunday is actually a very scary number.
Well, they have out of hours surgery. Like we had to take my daughter to out of hours one time.
But I mean, it's almost like every little thing that you do puts you off going to get seen. So, having to ring up at 8 o'clock, having to sit on hold. I had to sit on hold for half an hour today to get an appointment.
Shit.
What doctor are you calling?
Yeah,
I call mine up
seriously.
like bam, they answer the phone and that's it.
But every little step, it's like every step that makes it awkward, more awkward. I have to drive further. I have to go somewhere. The out of hours surgery is, 20 minutes of drive away. The more, it becomes like more and more tricky.
The joke of it all as well is when you finally do get in to see the doctor, he's on a fucking strict time limit. He can only see you for like 2 minutes or whatever because he's just got a fucking gigantic schedule of patients he needs to see that day. Like I went to see the doctor a couple of weeks ago and I went in there and you could tell that this guy was just like furiously trying to get rid of me. And I was like, oh, okay. So like already there was a tone set. He's like, so what's wrong? And I was like, my back hurts. And he was like,
how old are you?
All right, get up on the bed. I was like, oh, okay.
Take your pants
So I
down.
got up there and he pressed on my stomach a bit. He's like, did that hurt? I was like, no. He's like, yeah, you're fine. All right, see you later, I guess, then. Like, thanks. I was like kind of concerned, but you haven't really put my mind at ease, but I guess it's nothing to worry about, I suppose. Like, fuck me. It was just like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, look, we have we're very lucky. We have the NHS here in the UK. It's free. We don't have to pay for it. So that's nice. But again, like, I feel like. I feel like
we do pay for it. It
Well,
comes out of our taxes,
of course,
but it's not at point of use. I think that's the thing. I love the NHS. I would actually fight in a war to defend the NHS. That's how much I love the NHS.
It's great, and
if there was a battle, the great battle of the NHS, and you had the NHSs on one side and the hateful cunts on the other side, I would fight for the NHSs, and I would proudly die raising our battle banner, which would be a picture of a nice nurse
I think a little bit
smiling.
like there's so many good people in the NHS who work very hard to keep it going and work overtime for nothing and care and really, if you work in the medical profession, you've got to have a certain desire to look after people, and I think there's an incredible amount.
I love them. I love them.
Of stuff doing like it's people who are doing good to try and make it better, but also there's a lot of unfortunate. I was talking to Ben about this because he used to work for the payroll people at the NHS, and he saw all of the mismanagement of funds and like all the shit that was just done lazily and badly, and like for example like all the trusts all used to order all of their stuff separately, and so they'd all get given this massive surcharge, and so just looking at it, Ben was like, well, if these guys ordered their stuff together, it would save like £10 million.
It needs a lot of work.
I mean, there's tons and tons of waste, but that said, it's not as bad.
Would you rather
some
have a
other
little
systems.
financial waste or people dying?
Yeah, well,
I think that's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the choice you have to make.
I think it's always a tricky choice, though, isn't it? As well, do it's tough putting a cost on lives because we have this information, right? We know that if we did have more doctors and we did staff Sundays, we would save this many lives, but we don't think it's worth it. Do you know what I mean? It's what lives are not worth that much. Yeah, exactly.
We can't give every person in Britain a personal doctor. Like, we get that. We get it. Not everybody's going to have a doctor following them around at all times, 24 hours a day, just in case you get sick. That would be awesome, but we couldn't afford it. It's too expensive.
It is tough. It is very tough.
RoboDoc, that's the future. Everyone has a little RoboDoc, follows them around. You are looking a little jaundiced today.
Fine,
Mr.
sir, you
Lewis.
look very yellow today.
What if RoboDoc's under time pressure? Hurry it up, please, sir.
You're fine. Sore back.
Get out.
Stop it.
Please lie down on the bed and take your trousers down. But my back, I'm hearing about my trousers down. Okay.
Oh my god. We got like our own system over here, where we have to like. So if I go visit the GP, I gotta pay. but my kids don't have to pay. Like up until a certain age, they're covered. But then anything to do with the hospital, if I had to go in and get like a treatment or surgery, or like when my wife gave birth to the children or whatever, that was all covered. Like we didn't get any sort of bill for that. Prescriptions are covered as well. They're free. We don't have to pay for them. It's just basically just to visit the doctor. You have to pay.
I think we have to pay for prescriptions. Well, certain people don't. Obviously, certain people are okay. But
it is really nice not having to worry about like anything to do with like health.
It is reassuring, and I think that peace of mind is good as well. Yeah. I think we're very lucky to have this. So I'm a bit worried about you now, P-Flax. This happened last
Sunday
week? Sunday night.
Yeah.
Do you know what provoked it? Was it
No, we had a really chill evening. We were just playing games, but you know what? I haven't had anything to drink since Sunday. Alcoholic, not a thing.
How much alcohol do you drink in a week? Would you say
1 million units?
Wow,
whatever that is.
Right.
So I sort of thought I'll trim back on the booze. You know, I'll go like dry for a month. And then I'm going to stop drinking during the week because I'll always have a couple of beers in the evening. You know me, I'll have a few beers in the evening. So I thought, I don't need to drink on a fucking Wednesday afternoon either. I don't need to start at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, have a couple of beers. There's no need for it. It's a waste of money and it's not good for me. So I was cutting back on the drinking, and I was going to go away this weekend to Valencia with my mates for a big old sesh. And the doctor said, that's not happening. And she said, you definitely shouldn't do that. Your heart is still recovering. The air pressure won't be good for you going up in a plane. What if you have another attack on the plane? You definitely shouldn't be drinking yourself to oblivion for like 3 days, which is what I would be doing this weekend if I was with my mates.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so I had to cancel that trip. My mates are all talking. They started a WhatsApp group very sweetly. They invited me to the WhatsApp group so I can still, keep track on how the trip is going and stuff like that. But I'm absolutely gutted.
Yeah, I bet.
About that. But honestly, I've really enjoyed not having that slight buzz you get from having 2 or 3 beers, in the evening, and it's actually improved my gameplay immeasurably. Got a rampage on Lich last night, and my PUBG game is off the hook. At the moment. I'm getting kills left, right, and center.
So you're well. If you're having heart problems, man, you should cut the meat, man. Join the veg crew with me and Sips. It's the way forward.
Might be a cholesterol thing. Might be like
it ain't no cholesterol thing.
You might have some fucking like slimy ass clumpy cholesterol clogging up your...
It's not meat. I don't eat much meat. You have this vision of me as some kind of Henry VIII figure chewing on a giant fucking leg
of steak. Got like a full pig like turning around on a roast in his living room. I guess I do have that
image in my mind of you. Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's because whenever I come to Bristol, we hit fucking Five Guys hard. But the only reason I do that is because it's right there, and I love Five Guys. But I don't.
It's not right there anymore. They moved, Flax. You haven't been in the new office yet. You'd have to walk quite a distance to get to Five Guys now.
Oh God, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
you never been to the new office? It's pimptastic.
No, I wanted to come next month. I wanted to come down in October.
Okay.
How about that? If I come down in October?
I'm going to Japan for the first 2 weeks, so I'll be back.
Well, let me know when you go, Flax. We'll coordinate it. We'll go together. It just can't be on. It can't be on the 27th because that's my daughter's birthday. But I think everyone's going to.
That's half term as well, so that's good. And also, I'm away. I'm going to Palermo in Sicily.
Wow, fuck me, man. What? Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Valencia,
got any
Palermo,
other travel plans? Jesus.
Fucking jeez.
What the fuck? What's wrong with you guys?
Well, just
everything. I'm a fucking miserable asshole, so.
So were you going to watch some football or something in Valencia, or was it just like a holiday with the boys?
No, it was just, I mean, we I don't know why we picked Valencia. Like, we all said we haven't been on a lads holiday in a long time. We just sort of picked Spain because it's cheap and it's right there, and we thought the weather would be nice. It's not.
And what's wrong with Amsterdam? Like, just go to Amsterdam.
They're not. They don't smoke weed, and Amsterdam's nice and everything. But I think we just wanted to go to Spain and sit by a pool and drink, and then go out in the evening.
I would just go to Amsterdam and look at naked chicks the whole time.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to do that.
You wouldn't do that, Sips. That's not your idea of a lad's holiday, is it?
Well,
it absolutely is my idea. It is my idea.
Yeah.
We didn't fancy Amsterdam. I don't know why. I think it's probably a bit too similar to what you could get here. I think Spain we felt would be kind of different, and you know,
if you get like a big villa in Spain with a pool and stuff, that'd be awesome.
On a lad's holiday,
right?
Really?
Well, here's the weird thing about the lads' holidays is they always want to do it as cheaply as possible.
Absolutely.
If you go away with girls, they're like, let's get a nice place and we'll do this and we'll do that.
Yeah.
The lads were like, what is the cheapest, shittest place we can get? All it needs to be is like a concrete slab. We'll sleep on that. I just want to go out and get blind drunk. I don't care.
The last one I went on, we went to Amsterdam. We stayed in a hostel in the red light district, and that was crazy. It was really fun, though. Like, I would love to do it again, but like, it's just the older you get and the more responsibilities you have, it's like harder to carve out that time and justify it and coordinate everybody as well. So it's like, fuck.
Oh my god!
I mean, I would love. I mean, this when we go to Sicily, we've got like a nice house with a pool, and it's like there's the beach nearby and everything. It's like it's lovely, and the lads would never go for that. They'd be like, nah, mate, let's just go for a really shit fucking hotel. So we went for this awful sort of like really, really cheap fucking hotel. Cheapest flights possible.
It's just cheap hotels in Spain as well are like the fucking pits. God damn. Just they're the worst. Yeah. Worse than any other country, I think. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's like the cockroaches and just the weather and stuff. It's just, I
don't know, dude. I went to a very, very, very bad quote unquote hotel in France, in Nice. The worst place I've ever stayed. Me and Mrs. F went. She picked it. She loves to pick a budget holiday. Right. Nice is nice. Yeah. Nice is nice. But this hotel, I'm not kidding. This building looked like it could have been the set for a movie in the 1930s. It had that kind of decor. And I can imagine in its day, it was quite a nice building. It had been left to rack and ruin. Like when we got there, I was like, this can't be the place. She was like, this is the address. So the outside of it was just peeling, crumbling wood. And there's like a shabby looking door. When you open the door, someone or something had a massive shit right there in the middle of the lobby. Aww. And in order to deal with the problem, whoever the owner was had just put a piece of cardboard, like a little drawbridge, over the top of this giant messy shit. I mean, it was like a pool of shit.
Holy
this was the entrance. So we went in, you go up to the room. It's like a horrible box room with these windows that don't close properly, shutters that don't close properly, and it was meant to be self-catering. So there's an oven that's filthy. All the cutlery and cooking stuff is filthy. And the toilet, you would not believe this, okay? It was obviously not a place that was built with a toilet. In its day, you would have had like a bathroom on that floor.
It would have just been a communal bathroom. And it wasn't even the French hole in the floor.
No.
Squatters.
What they had was a porta cabin like you'd have on a building site, bolted into the corner of the room.
Oh my god.
That was the toilet.
Jesus.
And it had a shower in there. So it was like a porta cabin that had a shitty toilet and a shitty shower. And the shower was it was a slight sloping plastic end to one end of the porta cabin. And the water trickled out and went down that drain. That was your toilet.
It sounds like my prison in Prison Architect.
It was literally like a Prison Architect prison. It was horrible. The bed was lumpy. Everything was filthy. And it was the worst hotel I've ever stayed in. And that was in France, which I consider a first world country.
Did I ever tell you guys on the topic of finding a shit, did I ever tell you guys the story about the time a homeless guy shit in my grandma's lobby?
No.
Oh, man. Okay, so like my younger brother he's about 6 years younger. And when we were younger, we would go to visit my grandma who lived like downtown. Okay, she lived in like a 12-story apartment building downtown. We go down every once in a while, like our parents would drop us down there to like, spend the day, or sometimes we'd like sleep over and stuff. We were young. I was like 12 and he was like 6 or something. So one day we were there and it was kind of cold outside because it was Ottawa. So it was like, minus 30 or whatever. But we wanted to go buy some magazines. There's like this magazine store up the road. So I got my brother and I said, come on, let's go. We'll go buy some magazines. He's like, okay, fine. So we walk up the road to the magazine store or whatever, and then we get our stuff. We come back, and just as we're like entering like the lobby to like my grandma's apartment building, we had to like buzz. We didn't have a key, so we had to like. There's like this huge like panel with all the buzzers, and you like buzz, and she could let you up, sort of thing. So I'm looking for like the button to press to buzz, and then all of a sudden this like overwhelming smell of shit just hits me. I was like, fuck. It was crazy. I was like, I turned to my brother. I was like, fuck, did you shit your pants? Or like, what's going on? Did you fart? And he was like, no. And he just like mortified. I was like, what's going on? And he points at the floor And we looked down, and there was like this gigantic tube of shit like coiled up. Like it was just like this like gigantic snake shit on the floor of the lobby, okay?
What
and
a
it had
traumatic story
it had streaks of blood in it and everything, and we were just like, fuck me. And so what it was is like, because it's so cold over there, and these lobbies are like open and they're heated in most cases, homeless people oftentimes just come in and they sit in like in the lobbies to warm up or whatever. So this guy obviously did that and then decided to like just shit on the floor as well and leave. Like we didn't see the perpetrator. But man, that was the unhealthiest shit I've ever seen, and fuck me, it was gigantic, and it fucking stunk so bad. Holy shit! And we went up to my grandma's apartment. We were like, "You're not gonna believe this. Somebody shit in the lobby," and she was like, "Again? like it happens all the time." She's like, "It happened like 2 days ago. Somebody else shit. Why are these people shitting in my lobby?" It's like, oh fuck.
God.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that jogger? It's somewhere in America. And when she's running her route, she'll take a shit wherever she needs to take a shit, just on people's lawn.
No.
And this woman was in her house, and the kids came and said, "Mommy, there's a lady doing a poop on our lawn." And she goes out, and there's this lady jogger pulls up her stuff, and the lady says, "Did you just do a shit on my lawn? Can you not do that, please?" And she sort of just went, "Had to, bye," and just runs off.
Yeah.
And this lady has done it multiple times
and you know
on this lady's lawn.
This person is probably like some like high class financial advisor or whatever.
Yeah.
And she probably has like $7,000 of credit card debt, and she shits on lawns as well. This is what
She's
I'm talking about.
I had to go.
The common sense factor. That's the problem nowadays. Not enough people possess common sense. So that's why
I just think a lot of people are very selfish. She's like, "I'm trying to beat my PB here. I can't be running to a toilet or say
more
taking
like
a shit."
Yeah,
a PB. Woo! Nice one.
Fuck me. Who shits like on a lawn like that though? Like
with kids around.
Dogs
it's like
aren't even really allowed to
do.
do that. Why would a human be allowed to do it? Like it's
so
stupid.
bad.
That doesn't make any sense. Like we live in a society where there's rules, and one of those rules unspoken most of the time is just don't fucking take a shit on somebody's lawn. Like it's disgusting.
Amen.
What the fuck did she wipe with? Did she just bring toilet paper with her, knowing that she's gonna do this?
No,
or what?
no. She does when a dog just drags its ass along the ground.
Are you fucking serious?
No,
this
I'm
person needs to be locked up. Like she's a
That would have
liability.
been fucking funny.
That's wrong.
lady wiping her ass.
I can
on
understand
the
like a one-off thing as like an emergency. You know, we're humans, right? We're going to run across these situations where you have to shit yourself. I've shat myself a bunch of times, you know, in my life, or like had to take a shit in a weird place, and it's just the thing that you end up happening. You run into these situations, okay? It's going to happen to you whether you like it or not. So be prepared.
In a situation where I'm not even remotely surprised. Go on.
Carry tissues, because you never know when you're going to be stuck in a situation where you need to poop. Apparently, I'm very crackly. I'm breaking up. I'm crackling up.
Yeah, you're crackling hard. Yeah,
I'm crackling. Well, maybe it's time to put a pin in this poopy podcast.
Put a pin in the poop. A little tiny flag
pin in the poop pinata
in this poop cast.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you find yourself. Don't worry about P-Flax. He'll be fine. He's gonna be join the vegetarians. He's gonna start working out. He's gonna
fake news.
He's gonna stop drinking. He's gonna stop drinking coffee.
He's not gonna go to Valencia
he's gonna do all
on
the
a
things.
lads' night out.
He's gonna lose some weight.
I don't drink coffee anymore. I only drink tea. 1 cup a day. That's it.
Wow.
So I cut down on caffeine as well.
Try green tea. It's fucking good. Anyway, I'm gonna look after you. I'm gonna when you come down
you're not
here.
crackling anymore. You're not crackling
I'll
anymore.
give you-
We can
give
go
you a
on
big
for another
kiss.
hour. You want to?
And I'll rub you down, and I'll say that I love you. I'll whisper it in your ear. And
I'll try and come to Bristol next month,
and then
we'll have some fun.
We'll be together, three of us. It'll be magical. Yeah. Thanks. I hope your back's all right, Sips. Hope my eye's okay. We're all fine. Don't worry about us. We're
Get
great.
well.
We're falling apart.
I
We're
hope
getting
all
old.
of you guys out there are not pooping in people's lawns. And if you are, don't do that, for God's sake.
Yeah, don't do it. What the fuck?
And clear your fucking debt too while you're at it, for fuck's sakes. I don't want you coming back next week to this podcast with $7,000 of credit card debt, okay? I'm watching. I'm paying it time watching you, okay? So fucking sort it out, okay? Jeez.
All right.
Bye.
Love you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.